Hello, human family. How are you? You guys, today I want to go deep down into the abyss again. I want to go where very few men go. I want to go into the rabbit hole of a thing called parental alienation. It is a tactic and a malicious methodology and tool that these sick people use on a regular. It destroys more potential, more human potential than anything else in the human experience. I really believe this. This is why mental health facilities, counselors, therapists, life coaches are so imperative and necessary. These people destroy children at a rate that is alarming. Not only does it destroy the parent and put them through unspeakable agony and torture, it does the exact same thing to their own children. And these people relish the process of both seeing the children and the alienated parent suffering. Now, if that's not evil, I don't know what evil is. You see, my show's been going back and forth into many different topics. Early on, before I even came onto YouTube, I pondered, should I do my topic and my channel on narcissism? But I didn't want to be tied to this because I had transcended it. It took 5 years of a lot of hard work and a lot of pain and suffering that I just wanted to detach myself from it, become a political troll, and have some fun talking about taboo issues. But when I did a program on Will Smith, the feedback was so overwhelming. I see it in society and in my everyday life. I see the harm that it's done to my daughter, and I felt obligated to come to the airwaves and discuss this. There are many avenues I could pursue and many topics to talk about, but if I can save one child from this type of abuse, then I feel that I've done right in my life, because I missed out on seeing all of the signs of what type of woman I was married to and what she was doing to my little girl behind the scenes. If I can save another little girl, another little boy, by opening the eyes of parents, counselors, teachers, friends, family members about just how covert these type of sick people are, then I've done my job. I also felt obligated because I have an immunity system towards narcissism. They can't hurt me. They will try in many different ways to get under your skin or to bother you. I am immune to that shit. I know it. I understand it. I see it. I've gone through hell and back. I've been forged into steel. I'm like a war veteran. My eyes have seen it all. You cannot shock me or surprise me. And just for all of you newcomers to understanding what this illness is and this evilness is, because it's a combination of both, and you'll learn that throughout my show. But what they will do is, for instance, if you want to test and see if you have any of these grotesque entities around you, just say that you hate the color purple, for instance, and how the color purple causes you pain. And then everyone wearing the color purple around you in the next week or so is a narcissist. Especially if you put that out into the room or into the environment where you work. They can't help themselves. They think that they're clever and they're not. They seek pain to destroy you. So one of the things that you need to do right now, especially early on, is to not be candid with yourself or with your life experiences. This is Green's candor. I can be candor because I'm prepared for whatever they bring. They cannot hurt me. I'm immune to their fucking craziness. Most people are not, especially if you're early on in your recovery. So you have to be very careful with the information you share with people. My show is called Green's Candor for a reason. I don't give a F. I know who I am. I know what they are, and their good opinions of me mean nothing. Their little tactics and tricks mean nothing. They're hilarious. They're funny. You will get to that point even if you've been through hell and back. These people will become like a little gnat, a little fly that flies in the room every now and then, and you're just swatting it out of your face or whatever. They're sick, evil children, and who behave like that. But what they do is very serious, as you will learn from today's topic. Does that make sense, you guys? And I know a lot of you are still in that sunken place, and I don't mean to minimize your suffering or your experience. I'm just telling you, I have been there. I have been to hell and back. I understand why OJ went OJ. These people will take you into the darkness. And that's what I'm trying to help prevent, is that you don't let them control you. I am so blessed and so fortunate I had good people around me when I was about ready to unleash hell on this woman and a few of her counterparts. You cannot allow even this kind of thing, parental alienation, take you into the darkness. You must control yourself, and self-agency is paramount. Does that make sense, you guys? So let's get into today's show and take a listen to some of the experts about parental alienation, what it is, and how it affects the life of the innocent. It is truly disgusting, you guys, what these people do. I think you'll find this very interesting.
In parental alienation, a child is rejecting a parent for a non-protective reason. In other words, that parent is safe, the child is protected and safe with that parent, and there was an unreasonable rejection due to an alienating influence.
If we rule out that there is no abuse and this child is not wanting to see them, we have to recognize that they're being abused by the other parent to not have a relationship with them. Because again, it's the child's right to have a relationship with them. And if that person is not supporting that and not recognizing their own role in not allowing that to happen, that's abuse. And then that child, if you notice, alienated children will defend them tooth and nail, just like you see these kids defending the people who are abusing them sexually.
It's something that's existed for many, many decades, and I think now we're reaching a point where we're starting to recognise that a child who says vehemently, I'm not going to see a parent after family separation, is a child that's waving a red flag.
It's also considered domestic violence because the intent of the behavior is to harm the other parent and the relationship with the child. And so many behaviors that alienators do aren't always involving the child. The child can be a weapon that's used against them, but they will engage in many, many behaviors just to hurt the other parent.
And if you've got a parent who demonstrates, who shows, who through their behaviour signals to the child that it's not acceptable for the child to have a relationship with the other parent, then the child will respond to that because their greatest anxiety is that that parent will become emotionally unavailable to them.
Parents are being accused falsely of sex abuse. Terrible, terrible. If a child believes the false story that they had been sexually abused by a parent, they are at the same risk potential for PTSD as if it actually had happened. This is criminal behavior, absolutely criminal behavior. The alienator is assaulting the child's memory, feelings, thinking, relationship with the parent. Assault is a crime.
See, not only is this a crime, you guys, this has been planned from day one since the birth of the child. My ex-wife was so delusional, so dark, such a sociopath, that I firmly believe from the day that my daughter was born, when I was out of town on speaking gigs, when I was away from the home, she was gearing my child to not trust me, to dislike me. She was creating an image of me for later down the road that she could destroy me. These things are much darker than what even the experts see. These people are right on the money on the tactics of what these people do in parental alienation. The only place that they lose sight of, even when they go into narcissism, as you will see by the end of this, they don't understand that it's both mental illness and a spiritual deficit of some kind. Either some type of evil alien or demon is inside of these people. It's like they have two personalities. They're a synthesis of mental illness, delusion, and evilness. I firmly believe this. So let's continue.
So when you see a child who's rejecting one parent, especially strongly, and you see a child, the same child, is strongly aligned with the other parent, probably that's an alienated child, not an estranged one.
Alienating parents use a lot of the same strategies of loyalty-inducing things that people who are trying to groom children to be sexually abused use.
And we have a lot of research about how profoundly dysfunctional and unstable an alienating parent is. Let's face it, a normal parent will not try to undermine the relationship between the child and the other parent. A normal parent appreciates that the child has a need for the other parent. And when the alienating parent can't appreciate that, they lack empathy, for one thing.
You see, I think we're much too kind and too easy on these monsters when we just say they lack empathy. When a human being doesn't have empathy, they are empty. They are dead inside. And this makes them evil. Now, I don't mean to impugn that these people aren't doing marvelous work and what they're saying isn't relevant, because it is. But what I am saying, when you're dealing with a pathological narcissist, a sociopath, someone who is psychotic, it is just sheer evil. They don't exist. There's nothing inside. Something catastrophic has happened to these people where they are not fully human. That's why they can do things like this. So let's continue.
For a child to reject a parent is not just about the dreadfulness of murdering a parent who is still alive and saying, I no longer want to have you in my consciousness. It's about the way that that child has murdered part of themselves and has then been forced to live with it. And it's only when that child comes into their young adulthood that perhaps the gravest consequences of what they've been forced to do really starts to come to light.
Parents who alienate their children are not only engaging in psychological abuse, but also even physical abuse and social isolation and other types of things to harm that child and keep them away from the other parent. But it does a lot of significant damage to that child and to their relationships with others.
You see, the things that a narcissistic parent does to their children is unimaginable. It will put you on your knees. When I first discovered that my wife was suffering from this, my ex-wife, I studied this thing. So I knew the nuances of what my daughter was going through, and I watched it play out before my very eyes. There is nothing on earth that destroys a human being and puts you in such pain and agony than knowing the nuances of the emotional and physical abuse that your child is going through. These poor children live in an emotional torture chamber. The darkness that these poor kids exist in is almost unspeakable. And we don't get it that when we see a child that has no friends, that is socially awkward, that is alienated from society, and just exist for the pleasure of their parent, that there is something wrong that created this behavior. We live in a cause and effect world. A child that is not just anxietal, unable to build friendships, unable to exist like a normal child or teenager, just out of their DNA and the way that they were born. There is some type of abuse going on. And 9 times out of 10, if not 10 out of 10, it is the parent that they choose to stay with that is doing the abuse. They have been brainwashed since the day they were born to hate or distrust or fear or misinterpret who the targeted parent is. Like I say, there is no level to the vulgarity of what a narcissistic parent does to their children. I could give a shit what that hideous, dark, evil woman did to me. That's irrelevant. I was never a perfect husband. I didn't deserve the things that she did, and I never set out to ever hurt her. But I was not a perfect husband. But what she did to our daughter and what these people do to children is unforgivable. And it is criminal. And we as a society have to wake up to this. It is killing so much human potential. They destroy everything good and positive in that child. They murder a part of that child that may not be able to come back. And they try and they succeed. Often they succeed in turning the children into what they are. I believe that's one of the motives. It's a very sick, dark world that I'm talking about. And I know this sounds crazy. I know it sounds like something out of a movie, but trust me, you need to watch what's going on with your grandchildren, your own children. You need to put everybody under the microscope in your life right now. That's how pervasive this stuff is. Let's continue.
There's a concept in statistics and probability that turns out to be extremely relevant to these clinical cases. And that concept is the concept of a base rate, which I'll define in a minute, and ignoring the base rate, which is called base rate neglect.
And if you're looking for alienation and even other kinds of domestic violence, you have to look at patterns over time. Because abusive parents they use coercive control, they use ways to dominate the other person, and that you have to look deep and you have to look at it over an extended period of time.
If the professional doesn't have specialty level pattern recognition, or better yet, subspecialty level pattern recognition, you're liable to make a lot of mistakes and miss the important patterns. If you're using intuition when you shouldn't, then you tend to have great confidence in your incorrect conclusions. That's almost true by definition. It feels right. So no matter how wrong you are, if it was intuitive thinking, it feels right, and I'll repeat the catchy phrase, consequently, they tend to have great confidence in their incorrect conclusions, and that's a huge problem.
There's a kind of a perception that both parents must be contributing to the problem for this child to be rejecting them. You know, one parent must be doing something bad, and then the other parents, and they're both acting badly towards each other. And in my experience, interviewing and talking to targeted parents and researching them, that a lot of them are really helpless. They have almost no power or control over what's happening in their lives, in their children's lives. The alienating parent really controls everything. They control access and communication to their child. Anything that that parent will say to the child is interpreted by that child as negative and hostile towards the other parent who they're trying to protect. So my experience was that it's impossible for this person to reciprocate when you actually see the dynamics in these families.
You see, I know what you're going through if you're going through this right now. You're not only getting rejection and accusations from your ex, who you know is crazy, they've turned your own children against you. And at the time you need respect, loyalty, love, and interaction, you're not getting any of the above from the people you trusted the most. This is soul crushing. There's nothing on earth that can hurt you now if you're going through this. Once you heal from this, you're good to go. And all of the darkness and nuances from this, while people are cuddling the abuser and treating you like you're the abuser, while you're going through all of this, there's not much lower you can go through. Even losing a child physically isn't as devastating as this. And please don't misconstrue. I'm not saying that that's not an overwhelming reality that you go through. I'm saying that this is even worse than that. And part of your recovery is dealing with this as if your children or your child or your ex have perished. That's the level of grief that you're going to have to go through if you're in the midst of this. It is soul crushing, and no one sees it. Very few people see it or understand. Most of the time, rather, you're going to take this journey on your own with your therapist or life coach. That's why it's imperative not to try to do this alone. I am telling you, you cannot alpha your way out of this, gentlemen. And or if you're a female, you need a support system from somewhere and someone. And usually you are surrounded by these toxic people when the volcano erupts and the masks start falling off. I said earlier in my first video on this topic that a lot of men just change their name and their zip code and leave their family and children behind. There were so many times I was tempted to do that because of the indifference I was getting from my daughter and my ex. But I healed myself. I protected myself. I retreated when necessary. But out of the respect and love for my daughter, I kept a lifeline to her and never broke communications or relationship with her, and was there whenever she needed me for whatever she needed me for. It was not her fault. I even delayed talking about these type of things publicly until I knew she was old enough and we had certain conversations that when she came across my channel, that she was ready for it. She wasn't floored by the things that she would hear. All that you can do is push your child, not push, but advocate, and never stop telling them that they need therapy, and find the right therapist and be ready to pull the trigger to get them there, meaning pull the trigger to get them to the therapist whenever they're ready. If they become ready. You can't force it. You can't you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink, as the old saying goes. But you cannot change the parent who did this, nor do you want to. You have to stay away from these sick people. They are who they are. You cannot change them. And as sad as it may sound, gentlemen, you may not be able to change your own children when this happens. But what you can do is know and understand that this is not bigger than you. And you can get through this and even thrive out of this. I have never been more fully alive, more happy, more balanced than I am right now in my life. And don't get me wrong, we are sick. You cannot be around these type of people and not be sick too. It's impossible, gentlemen. That's why therapy, life coaching, all of the above is imperative. We are just as sick as they are, especially if you've had a narcissistic parent, but we're just not evil. We are damaged differently than they are. But rest assured, we are damaged. I am a damaged man from my childhood, but I am man enough, healthy enough, aware enough to say that. Most everyone I have ever met and have ever known is damaged by their childhood. Whether they want to admit it or not, you can pretend or you can get real. The only way to become fully alive is to deal with the truth and the damage and the childhood pain and abuse and issues that we all have. Most people will never experience what it is to be fully alive. And gentlemen and ladies who are going through this type of stuff that I've been talking about, that is the ultimate gift that you get by going through this, is that you are fully alive again, maybe for the very first time. And there is not enough words or any words that can really express what it's like to be fully alive. And most people will never, ever experience this energy, this reality. But let's continue.
What's going on here is the alienating parent tends to be a master manipulator, often an accomplished liar, brilliant at managing impressions, and so on, and is the aggressor who's winning. The other parent is a trauma victim.
So rather than sort of these children blossoming, they're kind of wilting under the care of the favored parent, and that's just profoundly frustrating, and that word doesn't just really begin to capture how painful it is for the targeted parent to go through that.
You see, that's what I mean when I'm having fun and I'm sarcastic and I say things like, the swell guy, or the innocent butterfly, the little lady that ain't never done nothing to nobody. That's what I mean when I use that. You know, I'm going to have fun. I'm enjoying my life. But I don't mean to say that to minimize just how sick and disgusting these people are. It's the swell guy. Ted Bundy was a swell guy. Chris Watts was a swell guy. Jodi Arias was a swell girl who never did nothing to nobody. You have to look at people and things with a third eye. The person that is saying, I don't know why my wife takes drugs and she's a drug addict and I tried my best, but she just won't get off of drugs. Or the husband that says, or the wife that says, my husband won't stop drinking. I don't know why. He's had such a hard time. He used to be such a good man. You better look between the lines. Because just as many times as not, that person is the abuser. The one with the with the bad, bad wife and the bad, bad husband and always a victim. And they never come across directly about what this person is. They'll always be the kind, swell guy or just the sweetest little angel. I don't know why he's not like he used to be. I don't know why she's taking all these drugs and why she turned into such a bad mother. They're always the swell guy or the good, good girl. You have to read between the lines. These people deserve an Academy Award. They are amazing liars and shapeshifters. Those of you who really know the darkness of this, you've seen these people's eyes change color, go into cold black, looking like a piece of coal in their eyes. You may have even seen them change the dimensions of their face. We are talking about something that is surreal and fucking creepy. These people are Academy Award winners, but they are as ugly and as dark and evil as anything you've ever seen in a movie. They are just masters at hiding it and controlling it. But underneath it is a piece of shit. Mark my words. What they just said in that last clip, I'm going to play again because it is so profound. Just listen to what he said and what she said.
What's going on here is the alienating parent tends to be a master manipulator, often an accomplished liar, brilliant at managing impressions, and so on, and is the aggressor who's winning. The other parent is a trauma victim.
So rather than sort of these children blossoming, they're kind of wilting under the care of the favored parent, and that's just profoundly frustrating, and that word doesn't just really begin to capture how painful it is for the targeted parent to go through that.
That is exactly what had me in a fetal position to where I almost couldn't get out of bed in the morning because I was watching this monster zap my daughter's potential and destroy her as a human being day after day, week after week, month after month. I screamed and pleaded to everyone I knew in her family, my family, therapists, lawyers, child protection, and people just didn't want to see it. I have forgiven all of those people except a couple of other narcissists that were plotting with her. I have forgiven everyone that has been fooled by her. I was sleeping with this woman and was fooled by her. So how can I blame what is called her flying monkeys, meaning people that follow the witch and do her dirty deeds and stand up for her and protect her in her abuse? I have no umbrage towards these people. I was fooled. They were fooled. And when they discover who they've been protecting and cheerleading, they will sink just as bad as I did, unfortunately. They will go into a place of shock in a soul-crushing place that changes the world that they live in. They will see the world with new eyes. And if they get to that place, wonderful. If they don't, wonderful. When it comes to me, I'm trying to wake up anyone that is listening to protect these little kids out there that are being parented by these monsters. For the sake of everything good in the world, for those of you listening, please, please be hyper vigilant to the people that are around your kids and your grandkids. I cannot say this enough. Please, please be careful with those around you. So let's continue.
For one thing, it requires certain types of thinking that are not commonly taught to professionals. Some advanced medical concepts, for example, reasoning backwards from effect to cause, and conditional probability, which is the probability of one thing given another thing, or the probability of one event given that another event has already occurred. So not to get too technical, that's the first point. It requires special expertise, and that expertise is not necessarily common among the people who deal with these cases.
Typically, alienating parents are what we call narcissistically vulnerable. They feel very threatened when part of their identity is being diminished within the dissolution of the marriage, so they externalize the blame and project it outward towards the targeted parent. And the children get involved in that, and they're caught in the middle.
Usually, when you're dealing with alienation, it's one of three types, or a combination: borderline personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, or some type of a sociopathic personality disorder.
And my most recent paper, we found that in the US, it's about 22 million adults are the victims of parental alienating behaviors, and they are not reciprocating the behaviors. So they are the primary targets of these behaviors.
Just those numbers alone are startling. 22 million victims in parental alienation, just from their research. Do that globally. Do that from other people's research. Do that from those that weren't detected under the radar. Do that to those who don't have children. The numbers, that's what, between 5 and 8% of the population just right there under parental alienation. I know I said I believe that it's 30 to 35% of the population. I think I was a little elaborate on that estimation, and it's all anecdotal. But from my experience and from my independent research and talking to different people and the different information that I've researched, at the very least, it's 20%, in my humble opinion, of the population. And depending on what industry you're in and where you're at, if you're online, any kind of social media, you can triple that number. And that is statistically what the experts are saying. That's one of the reasons that so many people are being abused by social media, and the lack of a better word. And this isn't the touchy-feely, all of this feel-good, my feeling stuff. It's that narcissistic energy is into our homes, and it's never been there before. You see, you never had that vibratic energy coming into your home. It's all over Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, etc. It's everywhere. But there was a certain shield that you had against that. It may come through the television, but now it's everywhere. We're surrounded by it. And that's what's causing so many mental illness and so many neuroses throughout society, in my opinion. But as they stated, it's narcissism that generates this type of behavior. And narcissism is much more complex and dark than what most people give credit to it for. There is an element there, and anyone that's been abused by this, that's why I say when you go to a therapist and you go to a life coach, make sure that they've been to hell and back on this topic, that they've experienced this firsthand, because there are things that happen that words and the current terms and methodologies that they speak about do not express. They don't talk about the physiology of how these people are shift shapers or shape shifters, how they change the color of their eyes, how they mutate and mutilate their face to look like a demon, and etc. And I know these things sound far-fetched, and I can't blame you if you've never been fully engaged with these types of people. But if you have, you know everything I'm saying is true. If you haven't, you're like, come on, man. Come on, man. What are you, high? Come on, man. No, I am being very real and truthful about this. But it does seem crazy. And that's why if you're going through this and you just witness some of the things that I'm talking about the shape shifting and the eyes changing and etc., don't tell people that they will think you're crazy. Honestly, do not share that with the everyday, with your friends, with your family, etc. Don't do it. But even the therapists that are trained will say there's nobody there. The personalities don't exist. Well, life is not an empty vacuum. Something has to replace that emptiness, that darkness, that deadness inside these persons and these people. And usually that is not good energy. It is a evil energy, a different kind of energy that flows through these people, in my humble opinion. So having said that, let's close up with this last clip and go from there. I hope you guys are getting the information and understanding that the takeaway here is that when there are two parents and the parent that the child wants to stay with does not mean that that person is not the abuser, that person is not the good guy, is not the sweet little mama, is not the good daddy. Just because the children want to be with them doesn't mean that they are not abusing their children. Most of the time, and I emphasize most of the time, that is the abuser. And that's what these experts are telling you. That's what any book on this subject matter will tell you. The children are brainwashed. They are afraid of being disposed of. They are afraid of being alienated from their parents. They're afraid of abandonment. They have been conditioned and brainwashed to do whatever that parent wants them to do. I have never seen anything like it. It is creepy how these people control their children. It is beyond belief. But rest assured, the takeaway today is to be vigilant, to do a little deeper assessment, especially, for God's sake, if you're in child protection or you're a social worker or a school counselor. In the name of everything good, take your time, refer to other experts, and don't just go off of the interaction with the parent and the child and what the child is saying about that parent and how they look before your very eyes. You must go deeper than that. These innocent children's lives and potential are depending on that. Don't do it for the other parent. Do it for the child. For goodness sake, slow down and take a deeper look, please. So let's continue.
The non-specialist in alienation will say, oh, this is a relationship problem between a child and a parent. I know how to treat that. Well, there's a world of difference if the child is rejecting the parent for legitimate protective reasons, or it's a result of a brainwashing.
When non-specialists see it, what you see is a child who seems close to mom or close to dad. They can sit in an interview and the parent is rubbing the child's back and holding hands, and the child tells you how great the parent is and how bad the other parent is. Anyone who doesn't have specialty level expertise is liable to leave that interview thinking, what a great relationship. So I'll repeat the phrase, non-specialists almost always, and I don't use a term like that lightly, almost always mistake pathological enmeshment for healthy bonding.
when the alienating parent alleges alienation, you have an obligation then to say, let me explore this, and is this my area of expertise? And if I don't know the 8 manifestations, and I don't know the 17 alienating strategies, and I haven't taken a CEU course, and I wasn't trained in family dynamics, and I've never been to a conference like PASG, and I don't collaborate with one single known expert in the field on alienation, this is outside my area of expertise. I have an obligation to do one of 2 things. Get an expert to supervise me, or say, you know what, I'm in way over my head, I have to pass this case, I cannot treat it.
Targeted parents are living in an unending grief.
The alienator presents with the 4 C's. He or she is cool, calm, convincing, and cool, calm, charming, and convincing. By contrast, the alienated parent, the targeted parent, has the 4 A's. He or she is anxious, agitated, angry, or afraid. And if you don't know to look for that pattern, and you interview each one, you think you've got it all figured out after the first interview with each person.
You know, I don't think it's ever going to totally go away, because it is a malicious activity, and there are malicious people who do things. It's a little bit like bank robbery. You know, no matter what you do, there's still going to be bank robbery.
Thank God for the knowledgeable people like the ones you just witnessed in this documentary. If I were you and I was going through any kind of parental challenge right now, I would literally take this video to the counselors, to the lawyers, to the child protection agencies, and make them watch it. I'll have a link below this video for it. And have them watch this video before you tell them what's going on. Because people are so busy, so underfunded, that they don't have the time to really see the nuances of what's going on in their case management or in front of the people that are the people that are in front of them. They don't see we're all too damn busy. So if you're going through parental alienation right now, please know that you are not alone. Millions of others have gone through the same thing and climbed the mountain and came out on the other side. Yes, you will be hurt for life. Yes, you are damaged by this for life. I can't lie to you and tell you that it hasn't made a mark and a scar, because it has. You wouldn't be human if it hasn't. But just know that the sun comes out again, and that there are people who are educated in this that can help you. Do not waste your time for those who don't get it. And it's like talking to a brick wall. Be very careful who you partner with to help you solve this puzzle. But most of all, know this, and here's a little therapeutic methodology that you can use while you're going through this darkness, because I know how alienated you feel and just how deep the sunken place is when you are in the midst of this stuff. I want you to imagine, gentlemen or ladies, but you know I'm a man's advocate, but both, if you've been victimized by this, imagine your life story is in a movie. And all of the people watching the movie know the truth and can see the truth just as clearly as you can. Every person in that movie theater that is not an evil entity is rooting for you. The universe, God, people who could see the truth would be on your side. They just can't see it. So when you go into that sunken place and you feel like it's you against the world and you have nobody in your corner, just remember the movie scene. Close your eyes, try to relax as much as possible, and imagine your life being played out in a movie scene, in a movie screen, in a movie scene, and everyone can see the truth as clearly as you do, and they are rooting for you because they are. Every good person on the face of this earth is rooting for you. They just can't see what's going on. All right? Take good care of yourself. Put yourself first. You have to get through this. Find the quietness. Close your mind as much as possible and try to find that calm center. You are not alone, fam. Take good care of yourself, gentlemen. There's nothing wrong with having a coach or a therapist. Every great athlete has a coach. Every great athlete has a therapist. I promise you that. Take good care of yourself and never forget, it's better to be fooled by a narcissist and even abused by a narcissist than to be a narcissist. Until next time, this is Green's Candor, and I'm out.